It's Tuesday night, which means it's time to submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, as always, Caffeinated Wolf.
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? Hail to you, hail to the High Council. Let's get this son of a gun going.
Folks, we got another fun show planned for you. Our guest literature devil will be here in a little while. He's got a little meeting he's got to take care of, but he'll be here nonetheless. And also, while I got everyone's ear, on Friday, I will be streaming with WDW Pro at 3 p.m. Eastern, so be on the lookout for that. That's going to be a fun show. I'll be making announcements about what's going to be covered in that show very soon as I know about it myself. So, Andrew, how you been, man? It's been a week since we've chatted on air, but we talk pretty much every day off and on. How you been?
Oh, well, yeah, busy. We've got a little thing going on called Isom 2 over at Camp Ripaverse. And it's been a hell of a, well, we're not quite at the 48-hour mark, but it's been a hell of a day and a half with numerous performance and technical issues on the site. We still managed to make quite a bit of money before midnight last night, but we've been down the better part of today. Our devs brought in another team of devs to help them, and they are currently making some good headway on the issues of optimization and performance and all the technical crap that I'm not smart enough to bother talking about. I just sit over here and drink coffee and wine. That's what they hired me to do, and to be the guy that says, "Hey, make this look prettier." Kind of that's a okay. As a creative manager, there's a little more to it than that, but that's kind of part of it. But for those of you in the chat who are fans of us over at the Reverse, we sincerely appreciate your patience. You guys are awesome. Please bear with us. I know you guys already have been for several hours. Keep an eye on social media, on the official Ripaverse account, as well as my account. My Twitter handle is right there beneath my mug. I will be making official update posts when we are up and running again.
Now, folks, remember, good things come to those who wait, so it's coming. Remember, folks, it's coming. Isom 2.
Yeah, we got some gorgeous books there. Gorgeous books.
I see the stuff posted on social media. I've been following the Comics Broke Me hashtag, and that's been an interesting cesspool, I guess we should say.
Yeah, a little enlightening. Well, not enlightening for those of us that already kind of knew what was going on in terms of the problems that have been plaguing the industry for a number of years. But it's funny to see a lot of these mainstream guys start to admit them, but they're like still kind of chicken shit about it. Like they're not calling out the actual names of the publishers. Like they're not saying, "Hey, Marvel and DC aren't freaking paying me." And we're just sitting over here like, yeah, I know.
Well, I have a weird take on some of this stuff because I understand, what you make in this field and what you're worth and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, some of the people that I don't know, I'm not saying the artists, because the artists are a different thing, but some of these writers that can't make it in comics, some of them just contribute to the bad community that is the modern day comic book community.
Oh, yeah.
Because I read comics on a daily basis. Folks, today is even the anniversary. I got my first paid gig 10 years ago today, so I feel old at 34. But my point is, I read comics every single day. I don't read them necessarily for entertainment anymore. Sometimes I just read them to study them, or just because it's a habit at this point. But the drop in quality of books is noticeable across the board. Companies want to get these big crossover events, and they push those down your throat. The main titles aren't worth a damn. I've tried to read Modern Spider-Man. That's my favorite hero. Hands down. Love the character. It's just the people that... The books are just bad across the board, and it's like whoever is in charge, editors mainly, that are in charge of like dictating what they're going to do, those are the people in my eyes that have contributed to a lot of these problems for these creatives that can't get work, because books don't sell because the content's shit.
Yeah, it's a content problem.
I feel bad for everybody involved that isn't able to make ends meet, because believe me, I do it. I've been lucky enough to do Stealing Solo, and it was successful, and working on Wokebusters and stuff like that. So I'm very grateful for the position I do have. But I feel bad for anybody that works on this stuff and can't make a living if you're talented enough, because it's like the mainstream editors just want to make books for themselves. Hey, I want to out-diversify you. Hey, I want to outdo this to you. Who gives a shit? Just give me a good story. Don't give me the same. Don't give me Secret Wars again. Don't give me this again. Just give me something different. I like I said, I have nothing but sympathy for these creatives that are out there trying to live their dreams, make a buck, and do all kinds of stuff. But at the same time, I just kind of get frustrated that this is what the industry has become. And I've told this on air before. I don't know if you've been on the show, but when all new Marvel came out, I decided I didn't want to pursue my life's goal of drawing Spider-Man professionally. I said, I'll do comics, I'll do my own books. And luckily that's worked out. But I don't want to work for these big companies. There's no value in it anymore. It's like, is it impactful to say, oh, I drew X, Y, and Z at Marvel? Not anymore. People are just, they don't care about the comics arm of Marvel. And that's directly because of the editors.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a content problem. A lot of it is largely due to editorial, horrible editorial decisions, no matter which of the publishers it is. And it's also, there are still creators that are issues themselves in terms of like, they're just not good at creating content, and they're also not there for the right reasons. A lot of writers, not all, but a lot of writers just kind of want to use comic books as a stepping stone. They see that as, oh, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go over to Netflix and I'm going to start writing the Netflix series. Okay, so you don't actually give a shit about comics. Got it. That's why this doesn't read like a comic book. That's why this reads like a trash YA limited series that belongs sitting next to Degrassi or something like that. And you don't deserve your job if that's what you're here for.
That's, thank you for bringing that up, because it takes me back to a couple years back. Remember that one guy, I think his name was Captain Cummings, and he would make the Milkshake Girls video, him and your boy Zach and all that stuff. But it's like those people that they were talking about, they're the people that put comics where they are. Like, you pick up one of these books and it's like, I'm going to make a short for this, so I got a bunch of research. But it's like comic book panels, and they're talking about like, now hold on, let me just pull this down real quick. They're like from Captain Marvel, and the Captain Marvel looks gross, or they're from the dialogue where it's like the dialogue is, oh, I'm not a straight white male, I'm this and that. It's like, who the fuck talks like this?
Yeah.
Like, if you go back to the 60s,
nobody talks like that.
Hell no. Dude, if you take it back to the 60s with Stan Lee, even though Stan Lee's dialogue and vernacular is a little dated by today's standards, it at least fit of the times. Like,
right. With those books, you have to
like
read those. In order to go back and read like Silver and Golden Age comic books, you have to kind of also take your mind back to a different time, because people spoke differently. That's not talking about like language that's perceived as offensive now or whatever bullshit like that. It's just the way that people spoke, the vernacular that they utilized, the verbal mannerisms, very different from how we speak today, just in general conversation. And yeah, those comics read far differently. Like it's really difficult for younger, newer readers, not that there are a hell of a lot of those these days, to like jump into Golden and Silver Age comics, because then they're like, I don't even understand what they're saying. How am I supposed to get into the story and get into the dialogue and get into these characters? Yeah, sure, I like Spider-Man, but why is he talking like this? Right? You have to be able to put yourself in the mindset of like, yeah, this came out in the 60s, so the people spoke different.
Yeah. But like, they spoke like people of the 60s. I've never interacted with people who didn't talk like the people in the comic books the people in the comic books talk like the people on Twitter, and that's it. It's like one weird self-fulfilling prophecy of just bullshit.
They talk like the worst people on Twitter.
Yeah, the people that don't contribute to anything.
And if it's not that, it's 16 panels of wasted space, sometimes even from a good artist, or even a stellar artist, where it's just characters sitting and talking over food for like 5 or 6 pages, and you're like, what are we doing here? This is a waste of time. This is not. What are you doing? This isn't a cookbook. This isn't the Food Network. This isn't Real Bitches of Orange County or whatever. This is fucking comics.
Yeah, shit's supposed to happen.
Yeah. The story's supposed to move. It's supposed to be steaks. And not steaks on a plate, though I accept those.
Oh, I would too, happily. I could go for one right now, even though I've already had dinner. Folks, if you want to send us a steak, I'll have a new P.O. box soon. You can send us a delicious Omaha steak.
Hey, there you go. We are not sponsored by Omaha. However,
If
if
they
they
just
are
want to send us
interested,
just send us a couple of look it, send me a case, send Andrew a case, and one of our guests a case, and we will eat the steaks on air, and we will promote them like you wouldn't believe.
I will sing their praises.
We will get everyone so hungry that listens to this show, you will be selling steaks left and right, Omaha. Not like you already are already, but you know.
Yeah.
No, but I just found that interesting because whenever I see Twitter stuff, I always see you right in the comments right away, like, "Yep, this is where I need to be," because there's Andrew.
Is that a personal attack or something?
Oh, Brie Larson, there you are. Now, folks, tonight we have a lot of stuff we're going to cover. Well, not necessarily a lot of stuff. We're just going to talk about a topic in depth because I'm confused. After Disney announced all of these pushbacks and release dates because of the writer's strike and such, Lucasfilm, being the special ed child that they are, decided, hey, we're going to announce another Star Wars movie. Now, Andrew, remember 2018 when within a span of 6 months from December to May of the following year, we had The Last Jedi and Solo: A Star Wars Story? Remember how exciting that was?
I mean, I remember that it was a thing. Exciting. I don't know if that's the adjective I would have used. I do remember that that's when they came up with the excuse of oh, maybe we're just putting out too much Star Wars. Oh, I remember. Was it Iger that said that, or was it Kathy Kennedy? It was one of the two, where they said we're gonna have to scale back the amount of Star Wars content we're making because Solo lost money, and
That was good old Bob Iger.
It was Iger. Okay, I remember that being said. I remember hearing it for the first time. I don't remember if it was this channel that was covering it or another one, Ethan's or whoever. And I'm being like, what are you talking about? Too much Star Wars. Have you ever asked any legitimate Star Wars fan worth their salt if there's such a thing as too much Star Wars? They're gonna say no. What they will say is, give us good Star Wars.
Well, we've reached that point. We've reached that point where it's been too much for quite some time. I'll argue that any amount of Disney Star Wars is too much Star Wars, but I'm not going to get on my old man high horse right now. I'm going to take it back and be honest with the people about this stuff. There's a limit to everything. Look at Marvel movies. You can't put out a Marvel movie every 3 months and expect people to get excited. Even if you have, look, Guardians of the Galaxy was a hit, but Ant-Man 3 was not. Wakanda was way less than the first one. What do you expect people to do, especially in economic times like this? You expect people to just constantly go, well, I can either eat or go see another Marvel movie. It's you have to eat to survive.
And that's fair. That's fair. I would posit to you, however, what the distinction is between those films that you just mentioned. What is the thing that separates Guardians 3 for, I think, a fair amount of the viewers that went and saw it, and the people who saw Wakanda Forever, Thor: Love and Thunder, Ant-Man 3, etc.? What's the differentiation there? One of those movies was fun.
Yeah, none of them were fun. And it felt like a chore to sit through Wakanda Forever. It's like, there's an episode of It's Always Sunny called The Gang Desperately Tries to Win an Award, and that's what Wakanda Forever was for the MCU. It's like Marvel desperately tries to win an Oscar. And it was Angela Bassett who had to be, the puppet for all this. It's like, look how powerful she is. It's like, she looks like she's going to cry. Is that really that powerful of an emotion? Rosemary Harris back in the old Spider-Man movies was much more engaging as an actress than
she was fantastic.
Angela Bassett. Oh, dude, she was great. I watched Spider-Man 3 for the first time in a while, and while I haven't changed my opinion on the quality of the film, I was talking to somebody today, and this is across the board, folks. I want everyone to chime in on this one. Have you noticed that CGI is shittier now than it was in 2007? I was watching Spider-Man 3, and I'm like, why does Spider-Man when he's fully CGI'd look more realistic than Tom Holland's Spider-Man from 2 years ago?
It's sad. It's really sad. I'll say this, and I'm the black sheep here, but the CGI in the Amazing Spider-Man films, especially the second one, holds up light years better than anything the MCU has put out. That's one of the reasons why the movie, even though if you scale with inflation, it actually performed very well at the box office, but its profits weren't great because of how much freaking money they spent on that CGI, because it still holds up better than literally any MCU film that's come out after it.
Yeah, you know how I feel about the Andrew Garfield stuff, but I would be lying to you if I acted like those movies didn't look good CGI wise. I mean, that opening shot of Spider-Man swinging around in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's legit. I mean, it is what it is. I have to remove myself, and that's why I said I watched Spider-Man 3 with the sound off, because if I had the sound on, I'd roll my eyes at how stupid some of the movie is.
Yeah.
But Sony, I'm not saying they did it the right way, because as we chastise Disney Star Wars for not doing profitable things, because it's like, look, we say these things because we want these things to be better and stick around forever. I don't want them to get railroaded into the damn ground like they currently are. I do believe there's a hope to fix certain things. But by that same accord, I don't know how you can like make a movie look that nice and still, come out on top, because it's really hard to want to watch. Like, the whole thing is, folks, is it's about the immersive experience. I know I sound like I'm a theme park right here, but hear me out. It's an immersive experience. If you're watching a film and all of a sudden it looks hokey as shit, you're going to go, wait, what? You're not going to sit there and go, oh, that was a great movie anyway. No, you're going to laugh and remember the bad parts. And of course, no movie is above reproach, and I mean that. There's like, it's just so much lesser on that level. And I do expect my big budget blockbusters to look a certain way, because that's why I'll drop $20 to go see this shit in IMAX 3D with, surround sound and 55K resolution and all this shit. I want to feel like I'm there. It's the experience. It's what's going to draw me into a theater. That's the business appeal of it. It's something that you can't get at home. It's something that you can't create. And I mean, look at the guys over at the Corridor Crew. They're able to create CGI that isn't that far off from some of the modern big budget stuff. The technology is there to do this better. I mean, the deepfake technology they used for Harrison Ford on the Solo a Star Wars Story stuff looks much more convincing to my eye than the upcoming Indiana Jones stuff, where it looks like it's just a head plastered on another body. And it takes me out of the experience. It ruins what a movie's supposed to be. It'd be like if every time you're reading a comic book, you get a paper cut when you turn the page, you'd be like, fuck, man, you wouldn't even be able to focus on the book. You're just in pain.
That would suck, especially since I just recently finished going through. You were just talking about reading comics. I mean, why the hell not? Why the hell not? Rare Andrew on camera appearance. So, in preparation for a video that I'm going to be either a video or a stream, script hasn't told me yet, we're going to be doing something that's Flash specific and dedicated specifically to my Flash, Wally West. And so, in lieu of that, I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread literally every single Wally West Flash issue. And I have all of the omnibus collections. The first one being this, which was written by the great Mike Barron, followed by Willie Messner Loeb's afterwards. There are a lot of pages to this book. A lot of pages. And then after that, what am I now? 2/3 of the way through. Book 1 of Mark Waid's run. This was the best run of the Flash. He really hits his stride in book 2, if I remember correctly. But either way, like, that would really suck, given how many pages are in these damn things, to have a paper cut on every damn one of them. No thanks. I'm good. Keep that. Bye.
I feel sorry for. I'm sorry I even bring that up. I mean,
You're gonna give me like retroactive nom flashbacks here to my fingers, Jeff. What the hell?
it's just part of the plan to slowly psychologically torture you, folks. We're gonna call this new podcast the High Council of Madness, where I torture Andrew until he goes insane. That's the whole point of everything.
Okay, it's my comeuppance and just desserts for torturing the chat with having takes that they disagree with from time to time.
No, I'm glad you mentioned the stuff with Script Doctor, because folks, I'd like you to go check out Script Doctor's Patreon page. This past week he had me on, and we did a whole roundtable discussion. It started out about the technology of Spider-Man's web shooters, but being me, I got into the deeper philosophical, even sometimes academic side of Spider-Man. And to prepare, I just started reading old issues of the book. I went back to the beginning. That's
the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's my secret, folks. I'm always prepared. But I'm like Batman in that regard. But no, guys, you're going to love that interview and that roundtable or that discussion that I had with Script Doctor. he's been on the show countless times. He'll be back on in the future, but you definitely want to hear what we have to say about all sorts of entertainment, because we get to the deeper issues, not just, oh, they need to fire this person, or oh, they should do this because it would look cool. It's like, no, how do you get a character to relate with an audience that has Arrested Development pushed on them, not the TV show, but like the idea of wanting to grow up and be mature. Because we even said on the video, back in the day, characters aspired to be older, or they had responsibilities like adults. These days, everyone's just, in the stories, just a kid forever, and it doesn't really lead to much drama. So check out Script's video. I'm excited to hear yours, man, because it's Script Doctor. We enjoy having him on the show all the time.
Oh yeah, it's hard to. It would be a bigger challenge to have a subpar conversation with Script.
I don't think it's even possible to have an uninteresting conversation with Script Doctor.
I think there are dumb enough people on the internet that it's possible. It's just very, very difficult, incredibly unlikely.
I'm just saying for us.
Yes, for us, impossible, because we're high art intellectuals here.
That's why we're called the High Council.
Exactly. The High Art Council now.
Folks, this episode of the High Council is brought to you by sponsors PBS and NPR. Make sure you put your pinkies out when you talk about how high class we are. Dude, next week we're going to have monocles and curly mustaches. How's that?
I'm wearing Armani suit.
All right. Shit.
And a top hat.
I mean, you've taken it to the next level. I'm a little jealous. I'll just stick with my Brioni. But what we're talking about now is another Star Wars film has been announced. So today, The Hollywood Reporter announced that Disney is pushing back tons of their films. First off, Avatar is being pushed back till 2031. Okay, it's the 5th Avatar film, but can you believe we're talking about a film that come out in 2031?
Avatar 5? Why? Like, okay, fine. People went and saw Avatar 2. What was it, A Way of Water? Mm-hmm. I honestly didn't think it was going to make that kind of money, but it made that kind of money. I don't know what its actual profits were, but okay, people went and saw it, and it seemed like a good portion of people actually at least had fun with it. Fine. You know what? More power to you. Good for you. I was good with a one and done on that one. I didn't need any more, let alone 5.
I only went and saw Avatar 2 because I was given a free screening of it. The day before it came out, a friend was like, hey, do you want to go see Avatar in 4DX? And I was like, what's that? And they're like, it's where there's 3 screens. And I went, of course I want to see Avatar like that. Do I have to pay any money? No? All right, I'm definitely there. So I didn't have to feed the beast in the James Cameron beast that is. But the bigger announcements, and we'll spare you all the boring ones, because Marvel movies got pushed back, this got pushed back, but Star Wars got pushed back, and then another movie was announced right in the middle of that. So the Rey Palpatine movie that's supposed to come out was originally come out in December of 2025. It's now been moved to May of 2026. And a new Star Wars movie is coming out 5 months later in December of 2026. So,
oh, yay.
Yeah, and then another one comes out the following year, December 17th. So Disney did not learn their lesson. And clearly we're just yelling down a void, or at least talking about things where, like, they're never going to listen to reason. It's not that they need to listen to fans. They're the ones that make the business decisions. But they need to figure out what the hell they're trying to do. Because this scattergun approach of, well, we're just going to keep producing content that says Star Wars on it and people are going to watch it, I don't think that's actually going to work.
Well, it's already proven. It's already proven not to work. They keep throwing, everything at the wall to see what sticks, and most of it hasn't. Mandalorian stuck for 2 seasons, and then we saw what happened with that. The viewership dropped off, and the viewership. I want to make this incredibly clear and important. The viewership didn't drop off just because of a drop in quality on Mandalorian. The viewership was already not there by the time Mandalorian Season 3 actually started airing. What happened, because both of the first 2 seasons had strong numbers, what happened is that Disney crapped out 3 back-to-back-to-back horrible shows that were either just bad on their face in terms of objective writing quality, or just horrible, like, Last Jedi levels of canon-breaking bullshit, aka Kenobi. And so they damaged the brand. There is no such thing as all press is good press, you can damage your brand. It doesn't matter what your brand is. That's why
Oh
we're
yeah.
seeing dropping viewership in the MCU when the MCU was the biggest thing in the world. They were king of the box office all the way up through Endgame. It broke records, for God's sakes. And then now look what happened. That Endgame wasn't that long ago. But what's happened since Endgame is that they've put out like a couple of mid flicks and like one like above mid flick if you want to count the third act of No Way Home. At least that's how I feel about it. And so they've damaged their brand. And so now I've said this 1.5 million times and we keep hammering in on it. They traded their dedicated, guaranteed audience, us, the lifers, the longtime fans. They're going to buy the merch. We're going to buy the toys. We're going to buy the t-shirt. We're going to buy the collector's edition popcorn bucket. And we're going to see the damn thing 6 times in theaters, probably in the same week. They traded
You've
that
been there
for
before, haven't you?
Listen. I'm not saying I have. I'm not saying I haven't. I'm just saying I might.
Doesn't it hurt you that the Flash movie, your favorite character's feature film debut in terms of solo outing, won't be one of those movies for you? I think I broke Andrew, folks. Well, I'm going to go see that movie on Thursday, so you can check out the review here on the channel, folks. I'm not excited. Ugh.
Why'd you have to bring that up, Jeff?
I'm sorry.
That hurts. Take that personally.
Well, look, I don't even know how to compare. At least, I don't know. At least you're getting a character. At least he's getting a film. Think of my friend who loves Booster Gold. He'll never get his own movie. Isn't that sad? Not really.
Yes, I can live without a Booster Gold movie, but like, though I don't think you could make a Booster Gold movie honestly work. You'd have to sell that movie on the buddy cop angle with him and Ted Kord, Blue Beetle. That's the only way you make a Booster Gold movie work, is by pairing him with Ted Kord.
And that's not happening because what is it? Jaime Reyes is the new Blue Beetle?
Yep, they're going with him, the kid who, and you know, nothing personal against the actor. He does a great job in Cobra Kai, certainly. But I mean, what was that stupid thing that he said in an interview? You know, finally there's going to be a Hispanic, you know, superhero that people can look up to, and I'm just thinking to myself, where have you? What?
Finally, okay.
You have never read a comic book. Got it. Doesn't really surprise me. This is the same thing as, you know, the actress that played Reva in freaking Kenobi, you know, saying that now there's finally a strong black character in Star Wars, and we're just all collectively like, what the fuck are you smoking? Who is telling you this?
It just reads as a big lie to me, because it's like, when these actors say it, people on Twitter are dumb enough to believe it. They're like, yo, bro, I'm so hyped. Listen to what he said. It's like, he's wrong. And then you prove him wrong, and they're like, no, you're just a hater. Like, that's one of the dumbest excuses I've ever heard on the internet. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're a hater. But I'm giving you the actual evidence of the... And then they don't care. They just shut down.
Yeah, they got nothing.
Yeah, that's what most of this feels like. A big fucking nothing burger. It's like, you know... These movies are nothing. These shows are nothing. It's just like in They Live. They want you to consume. And I, for one, am very happy to consume stuff that feels like it should exist. The stuff that people just put out there these days, it's like, oh, it's another thing in this thing that you like. Yeah, but how well thought out is it? Not at all? Buy it. No, I don't want to.
No, it's not mindlessly consume.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. Believe me,
no,
this audience wouldn't exist if I was.
Nobody's entitled to your dollar. That's why the independent space, you know, guys like you creating, you know, Solo Star or Stealing Solo, creating Woke Busters, every other project that you're going to be working on, us with Isom and the other books of the Rippaverse, Cyberfrog, all these independent books. What's so important is that you have to maintain your audience's interest. You don't have some mega corporations backing and shilling. You don't have the Access Media shilling for you. We live and die in the independent space based on feedback from our audience. If the audience isn't happy, the audience doesn't give you money. And if they don't give you money, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, yeah, that's where Disney is across the board. I mean, people aren't showing up for some of this stuff, and if they are showing up, they're not showing up for the repeat viewings like they used to, which that's just as damaging. Like people are like, oh, enough people saw it once. It's like, yeah, but you just keep turning the hardcore people off to the point where, like you said, they're not showing up. People don't care.
Right. That's the difference with
care.
that's the difference with the normies now, even now, that general audience that Disney and these other companies so desperately craved, because they said, oh, we can cater to these people that, aren't going to care if we have all these deep lore cuts inside these films for these characters that have existed for 80 years. They're not going to care. We can just put whatever bullshit we want and maybe even slide in some social messaging, and bing, bang, boom, you got them. Well, now the general audiences aren't even interested anymore. They're not going back for repeat viewings. They're maybe seeing it once, but then they're telling their friends and family, it was kind of mid, honestly. Like, wait for it to be on Disney Plus or whatever. And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, part of that too. I think just people, and we've said this before, people are conditioned with like to watch shorter stuff as movies get longer and longer, and I think it's like, I think that's one of the reasons that hurts these people's opinions and views on movies, because they can't sometimes look at, if a narrative's crap, it's crap. But I think sometimes a narrative isn't that bad and it's just too long for these people. And unless it's just like an Avatar film that's just visuals and you don't have to actually pay attention to a story or think about it, it's like it's just everything's going in the wrong direction. It's like this is going up, that's going down, this is going left, that's going right, when everything should just kind of go together in one direction. It used to be like that. We talked about how CGI used to be better years ago. Writing in movies used to be better years ago. I guarantee you, in 30 years, no one will look back at any year from 2013 on and go, I can argue that's the greatest year in film. Nobody. Maybe 2012 is the last year where you could argue that a series of really good, iconic, important films came out. But since then, you've had good movies. I'm not acting like every movie sucked, but you just don't have the wealth of quality. Like on this morning's Good Morning Pop Culture, we're talking about how 1999 is the greatest year in cinematic history. Some say 94, some say 84, some say 82. I stand by 99 because even your mid-level whatever movies, like your rom-coms or your generic action movies, they're all still a cut above what comes out today by quite a bit. And you need... It was a much better environment for entertainment. I mean, comic books were better. Games have evolved in advance, so I can't really argue that one as much. But it just, there's something, I guess the creators are lesser. They grew up with consuming crappy entertainment, and so they produce crappy entertainment, when the good stuff was, developed by people who consumed the classics. Look at what George Lucas draws from. He drew from the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell, or Kurosawa films, or other films, or his own life experiences. It's like we talked about at the beginning of the show. People pull from their Twitter experiences. Like, oh, I'm going to make a character just to piss people off that pissed me off on Twitter. It's like, is that really impactful?
You might grab a few people that are of similar mindset if you're creating things and writing things strictly out of spite. Because there is an audience for that, just like there's an audience when it comes to strictly catering to outrage. But if that is your entire shtick, your end-all, be-all, you are ultimately limiting yourself greatly. It's unrealistic to say you should make something for everyone, because let's be real here. Full stop. Let's be 100 about it. Not everything is for everyone. Star Wars isn't for everyone. Star Wars is for Star Wars fans. Comics aren't for everyone. Comics are for comic book fans. That's just how this is. These genres are for a specific group of people. And by group, I mean just people who would be interested in that thing. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. It doesn't matter if they're young or old. Not everybody is going to be into your thing. And that's fine. You should want to get a large audience, absolutely. The more the better, obviously, in many cases. However, if you are locking yourself into just spite advertising, spite marketing, outrage marketing, if that is your entire shtick, you are limiting yourself even more than whatever that entertainment medium is of that product that you're producing. That's why it's so important, like with what we're doing at the Ripaverse, um, where we're not advertising. We have never once in any of our promotional and official content, not on the website, nothing, write ups, anything like that, advertised ourselves as quote unquote anti woke. We're just not woke because we recognize that that's a thing that tends to make things trash. And we're like, well, not only do we as individuals working on the team not agree with that ideology, but we also just recognize it's not conducive to quality. We just want to tell quality stories with good art that makes people happy and enjoy a product, right? That's all. That's ultimately all that should matter to you as an entertainer. Is this entertaining? Does your audience receive it well? Do they want more of it? If the answer to those three questions is yes, you're doing the right thing. And that's all that matters. So we don't bother advertising ourselves as anti woke. We're just not woke. We're just here to create comic books that we hope a lot of people enjoy. And so far, we've done pretty all right.
Well, it's how I approach it too. Like the title's called Woke Busters, but it's a joke.
I mean, it's satire. That's the thing. That's and there's actually a lot of cleverness to that, to your writing in that, because you're by the title, one might surmise that it's that, but the writing, at least based on just what I've seen and based on our conversations, the writing is actually just very clever satire. And satire has been a thing forever.
That's exactly what it is, because I don't want to tell stories that are mean-spirited and stupid, because it's the same side, it's the opposite side of the coin that these people that we make fun of are
exactly
doing. It makes us know better. It's like, I get it, but it's like the comic is called Woke Busters, yet it has a black guy, a half black guy, an Indian, and a white guy as the leads talking about this shit. And it's like, well, don't you get that everybody finds this shit stupid no matter what color you are? Like,
exactly.
I guess I talk about it sometimes where it sounds like it's a heady, high art book, but it's an 80s comedy packed into a comic book form. It's like, if you like these movies that it's based on, then you'll like this shit. Because I'm not one of these people that wants to write boring, 25 pages of people talking in a room trying to figure out society's problems. No, man, these people get triggered and turn into actual monsters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that makes it hysterical, which makes it fun. You're making a fun product that people can enjoy.
And that's what I really wish we could get from Star Wars and a lot of other things today. Is I want to be entertained. I don't really want their ideology. And I know people could say, like, how can you find this in these modern Star Wars movies? Watch them, because it's very much there. Like, a lot of the stuff that we complain about in other forms of entertainment and media are in those movies, and it's not like you have to dig underneath the surface. Watch the film, don't watch the film, but look at any critiques of the film, and you see that across the board. It's not because it's a couple of, a handful of people that believe on the right side of the aisle or the left side of the aisle. It's just, it's there, it's very obvious, and it's kind of frustrating to, like, when you have something that does speak to the universal message of, everybody wants to fulfill their journey and their destiny, to kind of have it be just, like, bogged down with crap that you're trying to avoid in modern day, it makes you less, it makes your product lesser. And at the end of it, I think it drives everyone away into independent stuff, which is great for a guy like me and Ripa and the entire team over there and everyone else who else does it. But I mean, for everyone else that just goes to the comic book store, like, think of the people that run these stores or run these theaters or, are affected by the quality of these films not resonating with audiences. It affects all those jobs and all those people too.
Oh yeah, ultimately they're less likely to get hired back for another project or contracted out for another project, because the thing that they helped create the last time was piss poor.
Believe me, I feel like everybody in Hollywood gets to keep failing upwards, especially our old pal that runs Lucasfilm. It's like, how many other people get this many shots at business? Where it's like, yeah, this didn't work, but this will.
It's so weird in the entertainment industry. This boggles my mind, especially because I come from a business background, not just from being a GameStop store manager. That's fairly negligible, even though there are certainly skills that I picked up from that. But my actual education, my higher education, was in business and business management and marketing. And in no universe does repeated failure net you more projects. In no universe does repeated failure reward you with bigger projects or bigger responsibilities. Yet somehow we see this time and time and time again ad nauseum in the entertainment scene, whether it's directors or writers or in comic books. It is absolutely mind-boggling. It's mind-numbing, really.
It is. I get a headache
It's
sometimes
just not how
seeing some of
business
these
works.
things. No, that's not how the real world works. But I guess we have to remember that Hollywood isn't the real world. They just make shit that fails in the real world.
That's how you go broke. That's how literally anybody else goes broke, operating with that mentality.
Well, I would love to be in a situation where every failure I have nets me. I got another opportunity to make $5 million on this gig. Isn't that great?
Jeez.
No. Well, Sammy Three Pete says that is unless you work at the CW. Yeah, those
Well, the
shows don't
CW.
make it.
Well, the CW. Eric's covered this before, and I'm sure you have as well. The CW has never actually been a profitable network. You can actually look into its history, and it has actually been operating at a loss basically from its inception.
Damn.
Which is,
I mean,
wild.
And they've had so many shows too that have look at Supernatural. That show was on for 15 seasons.
Right.
And I've never watched, what is it, Good Girl or Gossip Girl or whatever it's called. Like, isn't that one of their long running shows as well?
I don't remember if Gossip Girl was on the CW. I didn't watch it, but I did raise my eyebrows when I saw Blake Lively the first time.
Ryan Reynolds is a lucky man.
Yeah. They've had a few hit shows that would draw numbers, but then they would spend a ton of money on all of this other crap and tripe that people just didn't watch, or like they'll watch the first couple episodes and they'll see that it's tripe, and then they'll just start to fall off dramatically. But then it'll get renewed for another season or even two. They'll plan out the third season while the first season is failing by the sixth episode. This is what I'm talking about. The entertainment industry needs a complete upheaval. It needs to be turned on its head.
Yeah. I would love for that to happen, but, I think their hands being forced in terms of, like, writer's strike, delays that the films are going to see, and then the astronomical cost of these things. Like, Disney's in trouble. We've been talking about that. WDW Pro and everyone keeps talking about that. It's not like a handful of people are just making this up to have wish fulfillment. No, it's like the numbers are out there. We're watching the paradigm shift in entertainment, and I, for one, am very fascinated to see what happens, because I believe someone in the chat said Disney's made their entire career based on unoriginal entertainment. It's like,
yeah,
they adapted everything from the get-go. They just did it with style.
Yeah, they used to do it well. They used to be able. That actually used to be. I would even go so far as to say an accolade of Disney back in the gap of them, putting out their classic animated films. They were able to take something like, hey, this is either public domain or this is, a fairy tale from such and such country. We're going to take this and we're going to adapt it to be marketable to children, specifically young girls. Because, then they started going super hard in the Disney princess angle, and that worked incredibly well for them. Disney was constantly teaching a master class in how to market to young girls with their animated films. And that's one of the reasons why they were so darn successful. And though they didn't invent those properties, they didn't come up with the story of the Little Mermaid. They adapted it. They changed it to be a kid's story. They didn't come up with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They didn't come up with The Lion King. They didn't come up with Aladdin. They didn't come up with a lot of this stuff. They didn't come up with Cinderella. None of it. They took a story that was actually in its original inception fairly dark and meant to scare the piss out of kids and get them to behave. And they made it into a fun animated film for kids that, may or may not have had a decent little moral lesson to it as well. All wrapped up there in a little bun. And now they just take things that somebody else, they're still taking things that other people came up with. They didn't make Star Wars, they bought it. They didn't make Marvel, they bought it. But instead of what they used to be able to do, which is make something more marketable and better, they've made it less marketable and worse.
Yeah, and it makes me so it makes me very confused is how I'll phrase it like that. But like I said, I want to learn how they operate so I can just make money for doing nothing. I mean, that would make the world a whole lot easier.
Wouldn't life be easier that way?
Chuck E. Cheese, I would love a live action Cinderfeller. That's a live action movie as is, right? Jerry Lewis from back in the day. That's a classic. Before we continue on, let's check in with the audience briefly because there's a lot of wonderful people who have support this channel all the time. I'd like to thank everybody who's here each and every live show, watches all the videos, joins us on Patreon and the membership program. You guys are awesome, and you're the lifeblood that keeps the channel alive and growing as we have passed another milestone. We're into 186 and change on our way to 200,000. So, like we say, we're hashtag building a better bullshitters, and that starts with this show and hanging out with you guys. So I want to thank everybody. First off, Random Monkey says, thanks for liking my post on TikTok about Marvel's Ollies. Well, it was a good post, so you definitely earned that like. But Random Monkey, thank you for all the follows you give us as well. Shrubbles Wait says, the word of the day is honkers. All right. Debbie does honkers. How Stella got her honkers back. Oh, she bought them. Okay. Honkers galore and Star Wars, The Rise of Rey's Honkers.
Well, there are a lot of men that buy honkers these days, but that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, you know...
They're cheap Chinese bootlegs is what they are.
Ghostbusters had it right. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. Like, that's where we are right now. We're in mass hysteria land.
That's exactly where we are.
But, folks, I've been reading some of your honker titles. I apologize, Shrubbles Await, for being a little late. Full transparency, folks, I'm exhausted, as you can hear it in my voice. So, this episode of the High Council is brought to you by caffeine, and not the Caffeinated Wolf.
I was going to say, I was not paid for this advertisement or sponsorship, but that's all right.
Well, there will be more. Don't worry. Actually, we'll get a coffee deal like other YouTubers, and then we'll sponsor ourselves.
There we go. Caffeinated Wolf Coffee.
I mean, shit. I mean, it's in your name.
It really is. Maybe I should call it Player One Coffee and be like, hey, want to do something?
Want to stay up all night and fucking game? We'll drink some Player One coffee because it's all you'll fucking need. Like, honestly, if there was a coffee ad where a guy screamed in my ear about needing the coffee, like, if Macho Man Randy Savage could come back to life and make a coffee commercial, I would drink that shit every day.
Dude, I've got it. I've got it. Oh, you think... Drink this coffee. You think you're gonna be going to bed instead of keep on playing all damn night long? You're going nowhere.
It'll take you 3 minutes to drink a cup, and then you're up all night.
Exactly.
He starts bitching about how he hates Hulk Hogan. That's what I'm gonna do.
By the way, speaking of bitching about Hulk Hogan, rest in peace, Iron Sheik.
Oh, I know, dude. I was bummed out. I love the Iron Sheik. I love all the classic Golden Age wrestlers. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet a couple of them, hang out with a couple of them. It's always a fun experience. I mean, who was probably my favorite old school guy? I mean, I met Roddy Piper. He was so nice. Jake the Snake Roberts was cool as shit, too. I mean, those are just two legends. Sadly, one of them has passed away, but... And the thing is, they don't die at a very old age. These guys are dying at a old... The Sheik made it to 81. But some of these guys are dying in their 60s because the toll their body takes from wrestling.
Whew. The toll that the body takes. You know, some of them were taking steroids in the 80s and 90s, you know. Like... And you can it's so obvious, the ones that did, too. Like, you can always tell. You're like, yeah, he was juicing.
Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, that was the one that I felt bad for because he had all that. He looked great, and then I think something happened with his arm, and then one arm shrunk, and the rest of his body stayed buff, and then he just looked terrible. I mean, it was sad.
There's no coming back from that.
Our friend Sejorjan asked, is Buzz's girlfriend a button? Well, it is now.
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof.
The hell? Made that. You had to have just made that. I haven't seen that one yet. What in God's holy name? No, but the real joke there is that Andy's mom's toys were named Woody and Buzz too.
I didn't notice that as a kid, and it's something I never thought about until years later. I guess I like to imagine Buzz Lightyear as a nice, pure character. But
I get that. Tim Allen's a good guy.
He's my favorite TV dad. No, the reason you haven't seen that is I made that for my Captain Marvel video last week, and I was like, I wanted to make a video on it, but I have a rule that I have to make these things interesting or at least funny, and so I thought, man, this action figure's got a forehead like you wouldn't believe, and then my brain went, Buzz, your girlfriend, woof! So I watched it real quick, and I was like, how do I make this? And there you go. So that is now a button, Georgian. I didn't even think to make it a button. I just had it as a short on YouTube, but thank you, Georgian. That is because of you. Shrubbles08 says, dude, where's my honkers? I'll take a John Cena and message, please. Of course, we'll play those for you in just a second. We'll use that as a transition. I won't even take them off screen so I don't forget. Enrique Vasquez says, I think the CGI looked better in the past because of the limitations of the technology. They had to work twice as hard to make things look realistic. Now it's just lazy. Family button.
There's actually a good point to that, because back then the CGI technology that they had access to, they had at their disposal, wasn't nearly as impressive as what we can do today. It's infinitesimal by comparison. And so because of that, they had to use a lot of tricks and put in a lot of effort to properly blend that stuff to make it work. That's why those scenes where it is CGI in the Raimi trilogy, it still look like, you can tell in some areas, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, that's older CGI, but it still holds up well and looks blended with the rest of the scene. It doesn't look like it stands out like a sore thumb or a Roman candle in the dead of night, you know, because they spent the time and effort to properly blend it and make it still look like a coherent scene. They don't do that now because they're just like, oh yeah, our technology's badass, so we're just gonna we'll slap some CGI on it and call it handled. And then, well, you've seen the result.
Yeah, I would watch George of the Jungle and think to myself, why does the CGI of this elephant texture look better than like whatever they try to do today? But it is what it is, man. It's a relic of the past, and sometimes the things from the past were a lot better. I can't believe I'm saying that. We'll get to your button in just a moment as well, Enrique, because I'll just do all the buttons back to back, and that way it won't kill the flow of everything. Dr. Coffinail says, Darth Vader's appearance in The Indian in the Cupboard was more canon than his appearance in Kenobi. Changed my mind. I don't want to change your mind because I agree with that. That's Darth Vader's best appearance outside of Return of the Jedi. I mean, post Return of the Jedi, excuse me. But first time I saw Indian in the Cupboard, I had never seen Star Wars. So when I first saw that, I was just like, okay, it's a guy with a laser sword. Then I went back and watched it. I was like, oh shit, it's Darth Vader. And you know, the rest is history. Enrique Vasquez says, guys, rank the top 5 Zelda games and 1999 movies. Let's get back to that one in just a minute. We'll do that as our transition. Well, hold on. Actually, a lot of these are requests for buttons and other things. So let's just do these and give the audience everything they want. So Shrubbles08 asked for this button. Folks, be prepared. This is the John Cena button. It's a little loud, but you know what you're getting in for. So we'll give you John Cena in 3, 2, 1.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
John Cena!
Indeed he does.
No good commie son of a bitch.
I'm so disappointed in you, John Cena. And here's the other one we requested.
Message! Message! Message!
Now, our friend Enrique had requested a Scott Steiner button. Not the Steiner Math, but another wonderful one that was also our friend TLJ Screwjob. While we're waiting to press the button, he sent in a super chat message as a membership. He says, Buzz your girlfriend, Wolf. I use Wolf in real life, i.e. Disney stock price. Wolf. Anyone else use a catchphrase or a word from media in their lives? Ooh, that's a great question. I would like to say I use the phrase bitchin', but I picked it up from my aunt, not from Stranger Things. So it is something I say quite a bit, though. What about you? Anything you pick up from real life? Or from pop culture in real life?
I'd have to think about it. Okay, well, here's one from the scene where Peter comes home in the first Amazing Spider-Man, and he goes down into the basement to help Uncle Ben with the flooding that's happening there. And he's talking about it, and he rattles off some big brain, big IQ nonsense about what he thinks is probably the issue, and Ben goes, "Well, that's the only thing that makes any sense." Like, because it just went completely over his head, was way outside of his pay grade. So he was just like, "Yeah, you basically." The translation to that is, "Yeah, you sounded smart, so I'm just gonna go with it." And so I use that phrase, "that's the only thing that makes any sense," pretty regularly, honestly, probably on a daily basis.
I don't know how to say the word youths anymore, so I say utes. That's a my cousin Vinny thing. I'm trying to think what else. That's such a great question. I mean, here's one that you'll like, folks. In the first Spider-Man movie, J. Jonah Jameson talks about a nice box of Christmas meat, but you'll never have a job. Apparently, I said that so much in my life that when my mom sent me a box of Omaha steaks, the message said, "Here's a nice box of Christmas meat." Love,
That's
Mom.
amazing. That is the greatest thing ever right there.
I saved that on my fridge for years in California. I think I did. I even packed it when I left. I was like, I have to take this thing. This is the best thing ever.
My dad actually uses that phrase. My dad freaking loved J. Jonah Jameson in those movies.
I do too. I have him on in the background all the time. J. Jonah Jameson. He's cast so perfectly. He plays him in every fucking movie since that. I mean, he's in the Spider-Verse as J. Jonah Jameson. He's in No Way Home and Far From Home. I mean, you don't mess with perfection. Up next was this button from Enrique.
Threats are part of wrestling, But you gotta look at the person that's making the threats. This fat son of a bitch is challenged all of us, has been world champions before, been in this business 15, 20 years, and this fat son of a bitch is gonna challenge us all out.
Just calm down, okay? All right?
He's fat!
Sorry, guys. Poor Samoa Joe. He just... Well, you are what you are, buddy. No judgment. Up next, we have our friend Enrique, who asked us to rank some Zelda movies, or 5 Zelda games and movies from 1999, and a number 39 button. If you need a minute, take a minute, Andrew, and think about those while I read the next one from our friend Sejorjan, who says, "It's been a week since the Iron Sheik died. I miss him calling me a F-word plus jabroni while dissing Hulk Hogan on Twitter. Mad Max, Sax, and Jamaram, please." I miss the Iron Sheik as well.
It's funny. One of my closest longtime friends, and we used to manage GameStops together. He and I have our own kind of pseudo language that we based entirely off of Iron Sheik. Like, we'll text each other like, "How's your Monday going?" "Fuck the Monday."
The Monday's a jabroni.
Or what better, this or 50 Dead Dogs? 50 Dead Dogs better, Bubba. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, we do this shit all the time.
The Iron Sheik had so much impact on people, and they didn't even realize half the shit they're saying is from him.
Yeah, this is true.
Now, the buttons you requested were a Mad Max and a Jam Ram. Well, I love pressing the Jam Ram one, because it's the only button that uses my voice. Jam Ram! But that's not the reason I like it. It just makes me laugh every time. But here you go. Here's your Mad Max request. Right about... Where did it go? By the way, folks, we are taking a break. Because of Treat Williams, we won't be pressing any motorcycle buttons. So if you've requested one, just request something else. It's a little too soon for that.
But how the world turns. One day cock of the walk, next to feather dust. Play something tun-tun, something tragic.
That was something tragic.
It was, yes.
Darian217, have you thought of your 5 yet, or do you still need a minute?
As far as like the Zelda one, I could probably bang out off the top of my head fairly easily. The movies one took me a minute, but I think I've got them.
All right, shoot.
All right, so movies. Do they have to be in a particular order?
No.
Or we just listen the top 5 in general?
Just list the top 5.
Okay, that's easier. I mean, Phantom Menace, The Mummy, Matrix was 99.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Iron Giant was pretty damn good, and that was 99, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4. That's actually harder than I. It's actually harder than I thought. Gosh, did I not watch that many movies that came out in 99?
Do you like Galaxy Quest?
That movie's okay. I mean, the most memorable thing about that movie was Sigourney Weaver, for me.
Oh, Glenn.
Wait, Tarzan came out in 99, right? The animated Tarzan. That movie was freaking awesome. Is that 5? I'm gonna call that 5.
That's 5.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna call that 5.
In no order, I'll go Detroit Rock City, The Matrix. Do I want to put The World Is Not Enough on here? I really do like that movie. But no, Blue Streak, that's one of my favorite movies. The Spy Who Shagged Me. And
wait, is that the one with Elizabeth Hurley?
She's technically in the beginning, but this is the one with Heather Graham.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's cute too, but Elizabeth Hurley, I mean, she aged like
she did
$350 bottle of wine.
Yeah, dude, she is a fine woman. I have nothing but nice things to say about her because I can only think nice things about her.
Mm-hmm. Even when she was literally the devil.
Yep, I saw that movie in theaters. Oh, and to close out my list, Bowfinger. So most of my favorite films of 1999 are comedies, but like they come from a better time. I would rather watch one of those than whatever you call comedy by today standards.
I don't think any of my favorite comedies came out in 99, honestly, because the first Rush Hour was 98. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to count that one because that's honestly probably in my top 3 comedies ever. I freaking love that movie. Shit,
too,
I'll watch that movie right now. You can do the rest of the show by yourself. Like, that's how much I love that movie.
Juntao ain't mad at you, dude. So believe me, I know it's. I'll be honest. If
I ain't no punk bitch. I ain't no punk bitch.
No punk bitch. This is some greasy ass shit, Chang. Look, when we hang out in person, we should just get together, crack some beer, and watch Rush Hour. That's all
Order
we
a
have
bunch
to do.
of fucking takeout Chinese food, and then
You think they'll have Camel's Hump?
we can find out.
It ain't real Chinese if they don't serve Camel Hump.
Nope. Gotta have that good MSG too.
No, only Chinese food. No soul food. I didn't want some soul food, man.
Oh, some soul food. I want some good food. This greasy ass shit. It's such a freaking good movie.
It is. Enrique, to answer your 5 Zelda games, I'm just gonna give you out of order. It's Ocarina, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild. I guess I have to say Tears of the Kingdom because it's the same as Breath of the Wild, but I still enjoy it. And, oh man, I'll say the one for Super Nintendo, Link to the Past.
Right on.
That's my 5 favorite Zeldas.
5 Zeldas for me. Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Link to the Past. I'll just say Tears of the Kingdom, because it's basically Breath of the Wild 2.0. So I'm not going to bother listing both. And then the final one's tricky, honestly. I think I'm going to have to go with Link's Awakening DX. Because when I was a kid, I didn't have a home console. I bought my own Game Boy Color as a hand-me-down from a friend who had 2 of them, whatever freaking reason, because his parents were wealthy and he just got whatever the fuck he wanted on any given Sunday. And I also bought
also a film from 1999.
Yeah, I know. that was a lore cut right there. Welcome. And then all I owned was like Pokemon Red, and then eventually I got Yellow. But Pokemon Red and Legend of Zelda were all that I owned, basically, as games to my name. And so I have probably beaten that game 100% of the way through like 15 times. because it was one of the only games that I had. So I'd have to put that in my top 5, even if for no other reason than pure nostalgia.
I never finished that game because on the same day that I saw Star Wars Episode 1 in theaters, I had saved money from whatever random side things. I went to Toys R Us, I bought a Game Boy Color, and I bought Zelda. And so as much as I enjoyed that game, I still hadn't beat Ocarina of Time, so like I got kind of tired of the 2D Zelda, and I put in Ocarina of Time.
That's fair.
I never finished that one.
That's fair. See, I didn't have an N64. I played Ocarina on my friend's N64 and actually beat my file before he beat his.
I'd have been so pissed if you came over and beat the game before me. I was like, look, stop. I want to win.
Good questions, though, chat.
Yeah, dude, or folks, thank you for engaging so much. We got a lot more to read, but we do want to talk about something else briefly. But Darian217, I don't want to make you wait. He says, I was channel surfing and forgot to tune into the show as earlier as I was watching Thor 2, The Dark Honker.
Is he being serious is my question, and he's just utilizing the word of the day? Because I'm gonna be Andrew right now, and I'm gonna be the black sheep. Thor 2 gets shat on way too much. Are the parts with Natalie Portman annoying? Yes, because Natalie Portman's annoying, and she didn't need to exist in those movies. However, the movie itself had some really fun character work, especially with Thor and his family. And honestly, every Thor after that was just absolute garbage. I hate Ragnarok because of what the potential for it was. They could have done frickin' Planet Hulk. But no, we got some, like, we're turning Thor and everybody into a jackass and a joke movie. And then, even though we had a cool-ass villain, it's like, okay, so we got a cool villain, and we just did nothing with them. That's fine. You even brought in Fenrir. They even brought in the damn wolf. Part of my damn namesake, if you look at my frickin' Twitter handle. But, nope. Just botched that one for me, and then I don't even want to talk about Thor 4. I'm not going to talk about Thor 4.
It's best if we don't talk about Thor 4.
Yeah, we're just going to ignore Thor 4.
But I don't think Dark Worlds is bad. I prefer them in this order.
The first one's
2,
definitely
skip
the best.
The rest.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Thor 1.
Thor 1's fun as hell. Like, that was when I was like, what? This movie's fun. And I'll be completely transparent, because most of my comics knowledge comes from DC. And then in Marvel, I'm far more hyper-focused. You know, mainly with Spider-Man, X-Men until it turned to shit, and then OG Miss Marvel. But so I was never a Thor fan growing up, and so like for anybody that like was a long time Thor comics reader and Mighty Thor, and they were like, yeah, I hated the movie because this and this, and it didn't feel accurate to the character. I would be speaking from ignorance, so that is an entirely valid statement. All I know is that I enjoyed the shit out of the film.
Thor is one of those movies I just don't get why people shit on it. I'm like, it is what it is. It was good. It was fun. I would watch it again.
It was fair. I mean, if we're being honest, most of those origin films in the MCU were pretty cookie cutter in terms of the formula, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they were being safe. It was still early on in the MCU, and the movie's freaking fun. Plus, it has one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever, when he drinks coffee for the first time and says, "This drink, I like it. Another." He just smashes the cup on the freaking diner floor. I love it. It's amazing.
Oh, to do a quick callback to the message, I believe it was from, was it Sejorjan? Or somebody who sent in their super chat as an audience member, TLJ Screwjob. That's a phrase I use all the time from the first Thor movie. Anytime somebody brings up 2 examples, I always go, where I come from, they're one and the same. I picked that one up from Thor to the point where it's like, it's part of my vernacular. I probably said it more times than anyone has ever watched the movie Thor, so it is what it is. And here's our final button before we start talking about that Lucasfilm book, courtesy of our pal, Joe Rogan.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
I still love to watch that Stormtrooper die. Now, Andrew, I wanted to ask you if you had heard about the tell-all book called Burn It Down that gave an insider look at Lucasfilm and how it basically they just throw money down the toilet. They don't give a shit. They're like, Star Wars will make that much money. The budgets can double, triple. It doesn't matter, to quote The Rock. Have you heard about that book?
I heard rumblings, but I hadn't heard the entire spiel on it.
So essentially, this book has a woman codenamed Emma, and she talks about how she was hired to expand the Lucasfilm IP, and she basically had to babysit for this guy. And then the whole argument kind of falls apart for me, because then she just starts complaining, like, if it was a person of color, they'd have been fired, but because he's white, he gets away with it. I'm like, I really don't give a shit about this anymore. But the stuff that I did care about was the Lucasfilm, they overspent like crazy. Where they were in the middle of all these places talking about, we need to be more profitable, we need to do this, we need to do that. Like, a season of The Mandalorian cost as much as a $350 million. Like, what TV show is that expensive? Just The Mandalorian. And so the book goes and tells these inside details, and it makes us always question, because the whole joke about everything is, when is Kathleen Kennedy going to be fired? When is she going to be gone? Well, I don't know, but everything we keep learning points to eventually, because this has been mismanagement to the nth degree. I mean, to the point where we're talking like, she's a producer. She knows about the film budget. She's the one that gets shit on time and under budget. But now that she's in charge, she just doesn't care about that. I guess the question I have for you is, do you think anyone's going to step in and actually do anything? Or since books like this get published, they're just going to keep letting them do what they do?
It really all depends on who has the frickin' stones to actually say something, and even more so, do something about it. Because, look, we've heard numerous stories of how people over at Lucasfilm feel like they're treated, the kind of unrest we've heard, whether some of that's valid and some of that's not, depending on the source that you're hearing it from. And obviously we see the quality, we see the falling quality in the product. We see the dropping numbers, which is that exemplifies the fact that there is the drop in quality for the product, and they're not having merch sales. So the only way that happens, we were just talking about failing upwards earlier. The only way that happens is if she's just got dirt on everyone, and she has that much like clout and power that people at least perceive her as untouchable. So I don't know, man. I would love to see her get taken down a peg or three, but I've yet to see any evidence that is going to happen. That would have to happen from the top, the very top. And it would have to be from a very top that she doesn't have dirt on or something. Because right now, all I see is that she's the one that's really pulling all the strings. Obviously, she's got people underneath her that, just removing Kathy Kennedy doesn't fix Star Wars. There's way more that would have to be done and way more people that would have to get fired. But her specifically, she's cemented there for now.
Yep, she's locked in, folks. We're stuck with her for a long time. But I made the video about it yesterday, and people have been really liking that video. I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, one, to direct you back to the video, but two, to hear what you guys think about it, because I don't want to sound like it's a futile thing, but it's going to take a while for change to happen. And I know there's rumors that pop up all the time, and I want stuff to happen too, but until then, buckle in, because if you think it's been bad before, it's going to get a lot more interesting for how dumb things get moving forward with all these properties.
Yeah.
The writer's strike is more damaging than we realize, and a lot of stuff at the back end is more damaging than we realize. So I, for one, like to report on this for the channel, but as a moviegoer, as a person in the audience, I'm just not satisfied. Even big hits like Spider-Verse don't do it for me anymore. I'm gonna, I guess, look elsewhere for my entertainment, or just continue to make my own, because it's far more entertaining for me to sit and write stuff down and then draw it and then sell it to the audience than it is to just consume. Because at least at the end of the day, I know I'm creating stuff for people to actually watch and enjoy, not just, oh, I feel obligated to buy it and I got to get the next thing in the Funko Pop era. Nah, man. Please, put effort back into it, Hollywood. Please, Disney, put effort back into your stuff. You bought all the good shit. That's why you're the biggest target here in this community. Because you own the best toys. And now it's time to share. And if you're not going to share, at least play with them right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, doesn't that just exemplify everything that I was talking about of them trading their lifers, their dedicated hardcore fans for the normie audience? You and I are huge webheads, and neither of us have any interest in what they're putting out.
Nope.
Like, we could not be less excited. The Flash film may be, you know, Warner Brothers and not Disney related, but there's no bigger Flash fan, not just in this space, but I would argue out there in general, than I am. And I could not be less enthused for this movie.
Like I keep saying, I'm literally going to see it for the channel because that's what we do on the show. We review movies, we talk about pop culture. We let people, basically we bite the bullet for the audience, because if you guys don't want to watch it, well, we will, and we'll save you. You can save the money. So, you know, that's where the Flash lives and dies for me. And in terms of Spider-Man, luckily I have access to read a lot of free comics and just, you know, watch stuff or consume stuff from the past. That's just it. I don't want to... It's not about feeding the beast. It's just I don't want to drive myself crazy with watching shit. You know, I have better things to do with my time. Not just to be a blind consumer.
Facts.
So, I'm just reading a lot of the chat. Daryl says, don't forget that she sunk the Galactic Hotel. That's an embarrassment, too.
That's the amount of money. Disney... What was it, $4 billion that they bought the bitch for?
Yep.
They haven't made that back.
No, according to reports from one of the financial websites, they said Disney's made about $1 billion from Star Wars.
Yeah, in terms of actual profits. You can be like, oh, Force Awakens made over $2 billion at the box office. Bitch! You know how much of that also went to the theaters? How much their freaking advertising and marketing costs were? And then add even more marketing costs onto, and also just general production costs for reshoots for the subsequent films. Solo, when we've been saying Solo lost money for years in this space, it's because it really lost money.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at Rise of Skywalker, and the amount of money that they've dumped into these Disney Plus shows, which, don't get me wrong, I loved the first two seasons of The Mandalorian, but there's no way they were actually making their money back comparative to what they spent producing these. The actual revenue, the net positive that would put them in the black that they are making on these properties is not going up commensurate and in a balanced level, or even more importantly, an exceeding level with the amount of money that they spent to buy the IP. They have lost money. We could change the hashtag from Solo lost money to Star Wars lost money.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to keep jumping back to the audience every couple seconds, but there's a lot of patient people out there. So we will continue this topic in just a moment, folks. Again, I want to thank everybody who's been joining us tonight live. Now, our friend John Thomas says two things. First, Bounding into Comics says the ride of the Rohirrim is just going to insert feminist ideals into the movie. And two, Disney announced a live-action movie bonus. Treat Williams died. Yes, R.I.P. Treat Williams. I did see that. We talked about that on Good Morning Pop Culture. He's part of the Star Wars family. He was in Empire Strikes Back as one of the Echo-based troopers. Excuse me, I was taking a drink. But have you heard anything about the ride of the Rohirrim and the feminist ideals that are going to be inserted into the film?
I'm going to be completely 100 with you. And I say this as somebody who's a massive, massive Tolkien Legendarium fan. Because it was like the third thing that I read. It went Dr. Seuss, Chronicles of Narnia, and then Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I didn't even know this thing was a thing until tonight. Because being completely transparent, after sitting through the aneurysm that was the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power, I want nothing to do with this. Like, until Warner Brothers like presents something saying, hey, here is a faithful adaptation of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or hey, we're doing a faithful adaptation of something else that Tolkien actually created, instead of pulling something right out of our collective anuses, I'm just gonna chill with my books and with arguably one of the greatest cinematic trilogies of all time, and be perfectly content with that.
I don't see the appeal of making more Lord of the Rings content, especially with, like you said, the trilogy did everything so right. What else is there to add to it? I mean, I'm not even what you would call a Lord of the Rings fan, and even I respect the achievements that those films accomplished. It was an epic, and it was done well. I mean, I own the Super Deluxe Edition on Blu-ray and 4K, and I acknowledge how entertaining those movies are and what they achieved. The story's over. I mean, Lord of the Rings isn't like Spider-Man or any other serialized character that you can go back to the well and tell countless amounts of stories, which, by the way, one of the biggest mistakes was rebooting all of these characters as they're about to get interesting. I'm not saying you needed to do 50 million Christian Bale Batman movies or 50 million Christopher Nolan Batman movies, but maybe just continue the trend of like Spider-Man instead of just rebooting it 3 times. And they're going to reboot it again for Miles Morales because, we're looking at the short-term money. Just when you are getting interesting, are you going to reboot your shit? That makes me so pissed off. Okay, not pissed off, but very disappointed. Now, folks, we'll definitely cover any of the Lord of the Rings stuff if it falls into our sphere, because that's what we do. Entertainment fails, entertainment embarrassments. And believe me, they just can't stop. They can't take their heads out of their asses long enough to realize what they do with these properties is damaging long term. That's why Indiana Jones is going to flop, folks. It's not because people hate Harrison Ford or he's too old. It's because the last one sucked so much that it ruined the franchise, and the company that produces it has pissed on Star Wars. So, like, why are there millions of people that are going, I don't really want to watch this movie? Look at the past, look at what they've done, and then you'll see why. Yeah. Plain and simple.
Damaged brand.
Dude, so why do you think Embracer Group is going to be able to... They did that... like, Lord of the Rings had that terrible Gollum video game. Then they have this dumb show that's coming out. Like, what do fans have to look forward to? Like, fans were very content with those movies, and then watching those movies again. Buying toys, buying merchandise, buying swords, buying costumes. Like, people don't just keep buying this crap after they get angry. How many... we had 186,000 people. I have interacted with dozens and dozens and dozens of people that all tell me very similar things with Disney Star Wars turned me off to Star Wars. It's a trend. If I met every one of my audience members, I'd probably hear that a lot. That's a lot of fucking people. That's a major stadium, multiple major stadiums here in this country, and that's a lot of buying power. If everybody spends $10 to buy a ticket or more, we're in the millions at this point. So you can't overestimate just how people will stop returning. They're not like drug addicts where they need their fix. They're not the next younger generation. Our audience is a little older. They have the patience. They can wait this shit out longer than you guys can. Yep. Because you need money. They don't have the time for your bullshit. So, it is what it is, but sometimes enough is enough. I mean, you come with countless examples of one and done, or hell, you didn't need the 4th Matrix movie. You didn't need certain sequels to certain movies. They were good enough as is. And that's the important part, because people will show up forever. Now, John Thomas, thank you very much again for your very generous super chat. He says, which is better, the old Flash Gordon series, the 70s Flash Gordon, the 80s Flash Gordon? Hint, the correct answer is the one with the greatest soundtrack ever. Flash, savior of the universe. If my voice was feeling better, I'd try to do the high-pitched thing, but I honestly can't get my voice that high, John Thomas. That the only one I've seen is Flash Gordon from, 1980? With the Queen soundtrack? That's the only one I've ever seen. Dion's a huge fan, to the point where he dressed up like him for Halloween one year.
Oh, nice. I've actually never watched it.
I would say give it a watch. I definitely enjoyed it. But my question is for people, how come Dion, a black guy, liked Flash Gordon and dressed up like him? How come he couldn't identify with, or how come he could identify with a white character? My point I'm bringing this up is, Hollywood, stop changing everything. People like the characters. It doesn't matter what we look like, it's what they represent.
Correct.
That's all of it, man.
Jeff, it's safe to say that you look nothing like Peter Parker, right?
No, I'm way taller than he is, too.
Yes. However, he's your favorite superhero.
Yep.
Far and away.
Oh, dude, by a country mile. No one even comes close. The second one is Batman, and he's not even in the same fucking stratosphere for me as Spidey.
Yeah. No, I get that. I absolutely get that. And yet you still related to the character. You still gravitated to the character. You loved him as a human being. You loved the stories that were told around him and around his supporting cast. That's all that mattered. Dude, I grew up watching Justice League Unlimited and Justice League the Animated Series. Even though Hal Jordan is my guy, Jon Stewart was my freaking Green Lantern for years. They didn't bring Hal's ass back from the dead until 2000. Was it Ethan and Jeff Johns brought him back 2003 or 2004? One of the two. With Green Lantern Rebirth. Great story. Great story. Jon Stewart was my guy. He was my Green Lantern. You know? And freaking I grew up watching X-Men the Animated Series. I don't look a damn thing like Storm. I love Storm.
I'm a little disappointed because that's what I was picturing in my head before you showed up on camera years ago.
Is that what it was?
Like, yeah, I was like, it's the Storm. The right version of Storm.
I sell it well. It's a hard sell, but I do it. I sell that like The Rock sells a Stone Cold Stunner.
Oh, you mean the greatest of all time?
Yes.
That was my favorite simile you've ever said. Yeah, I just want enough people that, you know, that have some kind of say in entertainment to hear that we don't care what the characters look like. It's what they represent. I'll say it every week if I got it.
Absolutely.
Adama, this sounds pretty cool. He says, "Hail Jeff and Andrew and chat. I went to the old-fashioned arcade over the weekend and played Blitz 99. So much fun. I also played a game called Soul Edge. It turns out that the game became Soul Calibur for the second game."
Yep. I'm a Soul Calibur guy, and I've been playing since Soul Edge.
Who's your go-to character?
Sophia. Sophia is my default, followed by, if I'm kind of just trying to feel somebody out, you know, not necessarily a hustle character, though I can hustle people with them, but that character would be Nightmare for me. If I'm like, if it's game over, all right, I'm sick of your shit. In most of them, though not all, because they screwed with her playstyle in a couple of them, Ivy. Ivy is who I bust out if I'm like, I'm done playing games with you. I'm done. I'm sick of your shit. You are dying now.
She's my favorite character to watch.
I can agree with that.
Like, I want to see an accurate cosplayer of that at the Cincinnati Comic Expo. That'll make me very happy. But she probably won't be allowed in the room with it all hanging out like that.
Yeah.
The only Soul Calibur game I've ever owned was Soul Calibur 2, and I played Link because I love Zelda.
Yep. With that busted ass throw that could toss people over the edge real easily.
Oh, dude, and wasn't he I'm pretty sure he was the only character in that game with a long-range projectile.
Yeah.
With his bow and arrows and the
bow
bombs.
and arrow and the bombs. Yep. Well, he also had the boomerang. I think. Yeah.
To this day, that is still my favorite Link model ever. Soul Calibur 2 Link is just perfect. I wish
it was a great design.
Oh, God, it's just the Ocarina of Time design done right.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy. Like, how could it be done right? Because in Ocarina of Time, they forgot to put the strap across his chest and a couple other things. So,
yeah.
For as great as that game is, Soul Calibur 2 Link is the best. Even better than Smash Brothers Link. Though I gotta say, I'm looking at a picture of it right now. It looked better in my mind from the year 2003 than it does in 2023, but it's still damn good looking, so... Now I want to go play Soul Calibur. Shit. Thanks, Adama. But I love arcades. There's a place by me called Arcade Legacy that my friends and I will go to every once in a while. It's like $10 for all you can play all day, or you can get a summer pass for like $50, and it's 3 months of games. And my buddy Dan and I will go play Rock Band or Guitar Hero for 3 or 4 hours. I shit you not, we once played it for 6 hours straight. We went to the one out at the mall, Jesus. And they have a hacked version where it was on a PC and they had all these real songs on it that weren't even in the game, on top of everything that was in the game. So I said to Dan, I was like, Dan, let's play every song we like. He's like, fuck it, let's do it. The set list was that long. Like, between songs, we would wait. I'd go up to the front and get some drinks. He'd go get drinks. We were jacked up on sugar and caffeine, and we played through all those songs. And they're like, hey, how close are you guys to finishing? We want to close. We're like, we got 4 more songs. So they let us finish, and then we rocked it out. So
that's amazing.
I'm all about arcades, man.
That's amazing. I do miss the arcade vibe. I really do. There was something about it, man. The last time I went to, it wasn't even a dedicated arcade because it's hard to find those now. But was when I was still living in Washington. There was this place that was basically like a Dave and Buster's, but it was a local place. But it was just about the size of a good Dave and Buster's. And I went there with a couple of friends, including my roommate, and we were just there for several hours playing all sorts of different games, whether it was like Jurassic Park shooter, the Terminator shooter. My buddy and I got on some guitar. I forget if it was Guitar Hero or if it was Rock Band. No, it was Guitar Hero because it was the Guitar Hero 3 set list plus like some other songs added on because it was like the arcade version of it. And man, playing games in an arcade with friends, it just hits different.
Agreed. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like to go to an arcade back in the 80s during the heyday when people were playing all these great games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and what else was at the arcades? Tons of shit. Why am I drawing a blank? Centipede and Joust and all these other great games.
Yep.
Star Wars, the arcade game.
Mm-hmm. Or any of the fighters. Dude, some of the most fun shit in arcades, whether you were playing or whether you were spectating, was 2 guys going at it on Tekken or Marvel vs. Capcom or Street Fighter. Or for me, it would have been like the original Dead or Alive or Soul Edge. Or even they did port Soul Calibur over to like the Dreamcast version back over to the arcades too, I believe at one point. That's just a ton of fun. Getting people hooting and hollering and excited for like who's gonna freaking beat them, you know. We don't have that same energy anymore.
No. And the fighting games, man, I loved that shit. You'd put your quarters on the thing, on the top of the cabinet. People were like, all right, you're going to play for this long, and you're challenging people. Like, I wasn't old enough to be that good at Mortal Kombat as a kid, but I used to watch people play that shit. Or I would stand around and watch the arcade do the idle thing, where you could watch the fatalities.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite.
I hear that.
But thank you, Adama, for your very generous super chat, and hopefully you kicked ass in Blitz 99. I have never won a game of NFL Blitz. There's a factoid for everyone out in the chat. I'm not very good at it, but I will whoop anybody's ass in a wrestling video game. It is hard to beat me. TLJ Screwjob says, think Sting had to hold in a laugh or not? He's fat! Oh, dude. The man called Sting definitely has a personality.
No doubt about it.
The Potato Guy 00 says, who wants to bet that none of the planned Star Wars movies will actually be released? I'm raising my hand that you can't see right now. I don't think that's ever coming out. Any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how they could justify that cost. That would basically be it wouldn't in the literal sense be a sunk cost. Because the sunk cost in movies would be like, okay, we don't actually release it, so we never actually make money off of it, not even a little bit. And so we just write it off as basically a tax write-off, as like a business expense, essentially. Friend of the channel, Valiant Renegade, could probably correct me if corrections were needed there, but I don't see those making any money. Nobody gave a crap about Rey. They didn't make her an interesting character. You're trying to base a whole trilogy off of her? No, nobody wants to see that. And not because she's a female Star Wars character, because everybody loved Leia. EU fans love Mara Jade. I love Bastila and Satil Shan. And freaking Seer Junda from the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games. There are a ton of characters that are fantastic. Shoot, one of my 3 favorite all-time Sith Lords is Darth Zana, who was Bane's apprentice. And she's a bad bitch. I didn't think, when I was reading through that trilogy initially, I didn't think I was going to like any character in the books more than I liked Bane, because Bane was a fantastic character. And then they started to develop Xana, and I was like, oh my god, this character is freaking phenomenal. I'm actually finding myself rooting for her against Bane. What the hell? That's called good writing. That's called creating endearing characters. You can do that with effort and with talent, something that Disney writers are completely bereft of.
Do you think they're going to get that with that new video game, the open world Star Wars game? I'm kind of
I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm looking at this from a couple of different angles. First, it's being developed by Ubisoft, so the game's going to be basically broken and unplayable for the first week. Secondly, the trailer was pretty, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. But where's the gameplay? Game developers have to stop doing this thing where they show off a game and it's nothing but just a pre-rendered cutscene. Like, I don't care about that. I can watch an animated film. I don't need this. Show me the game. This isn't what I'm playing. Show me the actual game. Thirdly, and this is the most important part, I think, for me, because I'm all for good Star Wars content. Hell, I love the Jedi Fallen Order games and Jedi Survivor. Absolutely adore them. But, and Jeff, you and I differ in this when it comes to Star Wars. We've talked about this before on the channel. I'm in Star Wars for the Jedi and Sith conflict. Like, I like the Rebellion versus Empire thing as a backdrop. Or I like, you know, the mercenaries and the smugglers and all of that, the bounty hunters. I love all that as a backdrop and like supporting cast for the most part, with some exceptions. There's some EU books that were really fantastic that were not necessarily Force character related, but a game that you're just playing as it looks like a smuggler to me is what you're playing as, and I'm sure that actually probably gets a lot of people jazzed, because there are a lot of Star Wars fans that's their shit, right? They're in it for the bounty hunters or for the smugglers, because that's kind of that dark, seedy, galactic underworld thing. And there's something appealing about that to a lot of people. I'm just not really one of them. So if the game, when we actually see gameplay, looks really cool, has some solid mechanics, I might check it out. But at least at this point, I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, it was a cool cinematic trailer, but I don't know what else to tell you. Like, where's my lightsaber? Where's my Force lightning?
I would have bought this game if it was Han Solo and Chewbacca in an open world game. I just don't have any connections to these new characters, so yeah, I will pass on that one.
That's fair. That's fair.
TLJ Screwjob says, need some hot sauce or something, but pretty good. He's talking about the camel's hump.
Yeah. Yep.
TLJ Screwjob also says, and while we're quoting Rush Hour, I've seen 1 10 plus times because of DVD, but haven't seen 2 or 3. Is there a 4? In any way, are they worth it? There's a TV show that has a season, but I don't think there is no Rush Hour 4.
No, there's rumors that there's one, right? Or did it get greenlit? Yeah. I can't remember.
I think it's coming out.
Okay, I find it hard to get excited about that, and if I see it, it would be strictly for Chris Tucker. I mean, Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan's chemistry in those movies is pretty fantastic, but I mean, the third movie was not good.
No, I didn't even get through it all the way. I've tried to watch it about 4 times, and I never finish it. But, you know, TLJ Screwjob, talking about getting Rush Hour on DVD, that was one of the first DVDs I bought. I was on a summer vacation, and my mom, you know, gives you money to go on a trip, and I didn't really spend all of it because the food was covered, and it was my aunt taking me. So on the last day, I was like, hey, can we go to the store? And I bought myself a copy of Rush Hour on DVD, and then I came home and I watched the shit out of it, dude. Did you have it on DVD?
Oh, yeah. I've got the first 2 on DVD.
Do you remember the floating head of Chris Tucker that would go, "Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?"
Yep. Yes, I do. They don't do cool shit like that on
great.
DVDs anymore.
No, even on these like high-end 4K discs, it's like they'll just have a static image. Like I love Beverly Hills Cop, and yeah, it plays Axel F, but it's just a static image of him standing there, and then it plays Axel F. I at least want like something. Like on the DVD, they had it was Victor Maitland's security system, or like on Ghostbusters, it was the top of the building that Dana Barrett lived in the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, not the Stay Woke Trigglypuff Man. That's my character. That character is walking down the street. It was like so much more in depth. It's just like the little bit of creativity makes you feel like you invested in something that was worth a damn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
TLJ Screwjob says, "Get your hands off my suit. Your mama gave me this suit."
That was a good one. That was a great line.
Now you said you have or you haven't seen Money Talks.
I have not.
Okay, Money Talks is essentially Rush Hour Light because there's a scene where instead of going to talk to that guy in Rush Hour, he goes and see this guy named Aaron, who is essentially, it's like the same movie, but it's like, it's weird. I want you to watch it and get back with me. If the audience has seen it like I have, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But they're one and the same, and that's not necessarily a pejorative statement.
Yeah.
Infinite Wander, thank you very much for your generous super chat. Infinite Wander says, "Would you two call Paul Bunyan, an American tall tale fame, a kaiju? Saw a video earlier today that made a very compelling argument. Paul Bunyan, America's Forgotten Kaiju by tuber Just Brandon." All right, well, I'm going to take a screenshot of that because I got to watch that video. I used to love the legend. Yeah. Well, was Paul Bunyan a monster? Because I always thought kaijus were monsters that were hell-bent on destruction, but didn't Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox, like, build stuff?
Yeah, I think by, you know what, I'm not as confident in it. Initially, I was gonna say I thought that kaiju were strictly monsters, as in, you know, your lizard-looking things, dinosaur-looking things, alien-looking things, Cthulhu-looking things, that type of shit. But now I'm questioning myself. I'm like, does it just mean something that's that freaking tall? I would have to look.
Yeah, because if that's the case, then I guess he would be a kaiju. But I'm going to watch the video Infinite Wonder and get back with you. I'll put that on when I'm doing some Wokebusters work on Thursday, because that'll be the perfect background thing. It'll make me think without having me watch the content. But I'm going to go with, as of now, without watching the video, I'm going to go with probably not, because they're heroes, but I have to look into more of the content to see exactly what I'm talking about. John Thomas, thank you very much. "I will die on this hill. Darth Kennedy is mad at her artistic masterpiece trilogy was rejected by fans. She made a terrible Indiana Jones movie to burn Lucasfilm down on her way out the door."
Yeah.
She definitely made it. It's going to be a shit show, and it hurts because I do love Indiana Jones. You know, folks, I don't sit and go, ha ha ha, this bad news means, you know, people are going to watch content. I go, oh man, poor Indy. Like, that was my dude.
That was your franchise. You freaking loved Indiana Jones. You still love the 3 movies.
Yeah, dude, thank you for that, the 3 movies. I was Indiana Jones for like 8 Halloweens in a row.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, what are you going to be for Halloween? Indiana Jones? Who are you going to be? Indiana Jones? Like, the last time I was Indiana Jones was a freshman in high school. Yeah, I was Indiana Jones for almost all of grade school, essentially. Like, one year I was Luke Skywalker, and then I was like, Luke is cool, but Indy's cooler. And, hell, the last time I was Indiana Jones, I had this Harrison Ford mask and everything, so I definitely love the character, but it sucks, man, to watch all... Like, and Beverly Hills Cop 4 is going to come out, and that's probably not going to be very good. Like, I don't even know what I have left that's sacred anymore. Like, I don't know. What can I don't want to jinx myself, but, like, they'll never make another Detroit Rock City. So there we go. They can never ruin that movie franchise, because it's just one movie. So I'm safe. But Kathleen Kennedy has done such a shit job. And no, her ideas aren't liked. Her ideas are terrible. The worst. If you like Kathleen Kennedy stuff, hey, more power to you. But here on this channel, I don't. At all. Dean Domino, thank you very much. Dean, he says, "I don't think Kathleen Kennedy is going anywhere till she wants to go. Also, Decaf, any thoughts on Persona 3's remake? Want to hope, but worried about updates such as modern audience and other such censorship.
I don't answer to that name. However, to answer the question, I'm actually looking forward to Persona 3 Reload. I'm bummed that some of the Western voice cast is changing. However, I'm not as attached to the Persona 3 cast as I am for 4 and especially 5. For those of you that have seen my avatar there, the posters that I have behind me. Hold on, let's show those off real quick. I can do that if I turn my light on. Those, my 2 favorite characters in Persona 5, which would subsequently then be my 2 favorite characters in the Persona franchise in general. As far as the remake goes, look, remake is a dirty R word that gets thrown around in both video games and movies and entertainment in general. Doesn't matter what it is, what the medium is. But the fact of the matter is that Atlas almost never misses. So because they have a history, a precedent, and a standard of quality with the products that they put out, I'm actually fairly hopeful that it's going to be a good remake. There was some miscommunication and bad marketing initially on their part, where they were saying it was just going to be the base vanilla Persona 3 from the PS2's like content. That's not true. The director actually clarified that they're going to have some of the Persona 3 FES story content added on. So there's actually, it's more than just the base initial game. I'm looking forward to it because I would love to see more of that franchise get brought into Persona 5's visual fidelity and its visual style, because those games are fantastic. The characters and the stories around them are fantastic, and they deserve to be told and brought into kind of a not modern audience, but modern like gameplay quality capabilities. So I'm really hopeful for it. I hope that they do a great job with it, and I think that they will. So
I look at, I always wish that all of this stuff works out, because censorship is getting crazier. Like, have you heard that the French Connection is now censored?
I heard about that.
I love that movie. That is a kick-ass movie. The fact that you can't get the original version anymore because of, well, the racial slurs that Popeye Doyle says. What the fuck? It's a movie from, what, 74? 73? I don't advocate for saying any of that shit. But if the movie is a product of its time. And if it says it, deal with it. Don't watch it if you can't handle the art. Don't watch the piece. If you're offended, go fuck yourself. I mean that firmly too, not just trying to be funny. I mean it. If you watch a movie and you go, oh, that's so racist, or oh, that's so offensive,
that we've got 2 words for you.
Yeah, believe me, I would love to just get up in these people's faces and be like, listen, I mean, I just can't stand any of that stuff. Today's audiences are so... I don't even think the audiences are soft. I think there's a small minority of people that get offended. Oh my lord, I heard this, I heard that, I saw a tit in a movie. Who are you, Tipper Gore? Fuck off. Like, it's art, it's entertainment, it is what it is, and it's a relic of the past. I don't want people to go backwards, even though society-wise we are, but I also don't want to censor shit. It's what it is, it's censored shit. I don't want to watch these movies, I don't want to support this. Until this gets resolved, I will never own a copy of The French Connection, and that was on my list of films to pick up, because I do love it. Quite a bit. I've seen it, and I think there's a sequel that I saw, and it wasn't as good as the first one, but it is what it is. That kind of stuff just annoys me. You'll never hear me go, oh, they censored a movie, it was a good thing because it's offensive. No. Like, RoboCop, you need to put all the violence back in. All the swearing needs to be in every movie, because it is what it is. And if you can't handle it, just don't watch it. Go home.
Facts.
Enough said. I was taking another sip of water. Darian217, thank you for both of your very generous super chats. We're going to read them in order. He says, read the Thor comment by Andrew. I was watching Thor 2 The Dark World. It was on TV. Thor 2 is my second favorite Thor film behind my favorite Thor. Thor 1. I watched Thor 1 on my way to the fan meetup back on my flight. Well,
That's
that was
cool.
Yeah. I'm glad you made it, Darian217. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you, and I hope we get to hang out at WrestleMania next year, since it'll be closer to you. And now I live on this side of the country, so I'll just be driving to WrestleMania. I like Thor. I own the action figure from the first movie. But if I'm feeling a Marvel movie, that's never too hard to pick. I enjoy it. Chris Hemsworth is a good Thor.
He is.
I had only seen him in one film prior to Thor, and that was Star Trek. But
Yeah,
after
same.
That came out,
Where he played Tiberius. George Kirk. Yeah, George Kirk.
Because he's like, name him after your dad, Tiberius. That's terrible.
Yeah, I was getting my wires crossed on there.
It's such a good scene, though, too. I mean,
it is.
Look, I'm not going to act like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is better than the originals, but that part where
no Star Trek fan will say that.
No. But the part where he's like getting ready to die and he's trying to like comfort his wife right after the birth of Captain Kirk, I'm just
that's
like,
a good scene.
This is a good opener.
That was a good scene. That was a good scene for sure.
But the fucking, I'm just going to tell my past self how to do this shit. Isn't that a time loop or a space-time continuum tear or something? I mean...
That's why honestly, that's the main issue I have with that film. And I've said it before, I'm not a Trek guy outside of having watched the shit out of Next Generation with my parents growing up as a kid. I love Next Generation. But as far as OG Trek, I've seen maybe a dozen episodes collectively. Maybe a little bit more than that. But so I mean, I enjoyed that movie. When I spoke with Trek fans who were like gracious enough to explain to me as original series Trek fans, like why they took issue with the story that was being told there. Most of them didn't have issues with like the characters themselves. Most of them were like, this doesn't make sense here, and here's why. I was like, oh, yeah, I totally get that. That makes all the damn sense in the world. Of course you hate it. I would too, if I was in your shoes. However, I'm able to separate that and say, well, I'm a Star Trek normie. And so I enjoyed the shit out of that movie. And part of it might also be that, I saw it with my dad. It was either on his birthday or mine. And we had a good time in the theater with it. And my dad's been watching Trek since the originals. So.
My favorite is still The Voyage Home. I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's double dumbass on you too. Darian217, thank you very much. He says, also cool to hear someone else that totally doesn't dismiss Thor 2 as much as everyone else seems to do. Same for Thor 1, which is still my favorite MCU movie. Saw it 3.5 times across 4 plane flights in the last 2 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, Thor 1 is not my favorite MCU movie, but I will rewatch it probably any day. Somebody says, hey, you want to watch the first Thor? I'll be like, yeah, definitely.
Well, the thing I've always enjoyed about that movie is it has a decent message of a god learning what it is to be human, and therefore you understand why Thor wants to fight for humanity every other movie. It's not just, oh, my love of Jane Foster. It's like, Thor gets it. He likes people. The people of Earth were good to Thor, and he's good back to them.
Yep.
That's kind of why
there was a really human story told there, and it really endeared the character to the audience.
And that's why I take the stance I do with the other ones, because it's like, yeah, these movies are too goofy. They are dumb. There was a minute where Thor had some substance to it, and the action was good. Like, that fight with the Destroyer is awesome still. I like that scene quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Off the top of my head, I can definitely say the first Thor movie is in my... It's definitely in the top 10 of the MCU for me, without a doubt. That's not even, up for debate.
Top 10. Top 10, I mean... I could say that half asleep. I could say that fully asleep, probably.
I'd rather watch the first Thor than I would any of the Spider-Man films in the MCU.
Yes, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And honestly, if I'm going to put on any of them, I'll just skip to the third act of No Way Home just to see Toby and Andrew.
Yep.
And then I'll pretend like Tom isn't on screen.
I mean, he's so short he can blink and you miss him.
Until that final swing where it's like, oh, look at that. He's walking broke ass into an apartment. He doesn't have all this fancy stuff anymore. Like, look at that. He's actually Peter Parker for the first time. It only took 5.5 films.
And the best part is we're not going to get any more follow-up because they're going to jump to Miles Morales and the rest is history.
Well, I'm checked out of the MCU anyway.
Yeah, I can skip that movie. But Darian217, I'm glad there's some more Thor love out there. Like I said, you'll never hear us shit on Thor because we all enjoy it.
Hell yeah.
Send me a message next time you watch it. Adama says, I played 5 times and lost them all. Mitsurugi says, Mitsurugi is my guy. I'm a sucker for the katana. The nunchuck dude is fun as well. Is that Keelik or
Nunchucks would be Maxi.
Okay.
Maxi was like Maxi was probably my third or fourth most used character in Soul Calibur 2. I used him. He was actually my character that I would like kind of feel people out with, like in terms of like, can this person actually play or what? Based on like how they would react to what I was doing with Maxi. So Maxi is very easy to like fake people out with if they don't know what they're doing. And so yeah, Maxi's cool. Maxi's cool for sure.
He also says, I also loved arcades in the 90s. Capcom versus SNK, Tekken and Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, TMNT arcade game, and Area 51. That's my shit right there. I love Area 51. I think if I was going to buy any arcade machine, Area 51 would be it. I mean, I know I've talked about getting an X-Men arcade machine, but that's like the one-up version, which is smaller, or the TMNT machine, which is smaller. But if I was going to get a full-sized one that was only, a direct arcade remnant, Area 51, man, that game was so much fun. I loved the shit out of that. When I went and saw Independence Day, afterwards, I went and played Area 51.
That's awesome.
Talk about a 1-2 punch, man. It was all about the aliens for me that day.
Appropriate.
But Adam, of all those fighters that you said, I also like... I like Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. I like Mortal Kombat 2 the best. TMNT Arcade is up there as my favorite. I like X-Men and TMNT on the same level as The Simpsons. They're all the same game, essentially. And I've never actually played a Tekken game in arcades. Oh, I take that back. I played Tekken 3 a little in arcades. We had it on the PlayStation, so that's where the Tekken franchise lived for me. PlayStation.
Right on.
Enrique says, my daddy's going to kick your daddy's ass.
That was a funny back and forth because they were acting like two freaking boys on the street, like trying to one up each other in terms of like whose dad is more of a badass. Like I remember those arguments when I was a little kid.
I like he's like, my daddy once saved 5 crackheads from a burning building. My father's blah blah blah. My dad is a hero all around America. My daddy whooped your daddy's ass so it can Saigon and up the wall and all that other shit.
That was great. I cannot say enough good things about Chris Tucker in those movies.
Same. I would love to. I don't know if he can still pull off his classic Chris Tuckerisms, but if he can, I'm there for more of them. Adam Wofford says the word kaiju means strange creature, vampires, werewolves, dragons, and other random facts for the day. In D&D, female elves... and others. So kaiju just means strange creature. So I guess Paul Bunyan? Would he be a strange creature? But Babe the Blue Ox would definitely be one under that definition.
Yeah. That's odd, though, because in media, we tend to... I mean, if that's the literal definition, then yeah, but the actual operative definition is never used in that context. It's always used in some like skyscraper-sized monster,
That's what my first thought always goes to. But if that's the case, then I'll go with Babe the Blue Ox, because a giant man is, well, just that, a very large man. It reminds me of the Tick. But here's the random fact of the day from our friend Adam Walford. He says, in D&D, female elves pregnancy lasts for 18 months. It's a hell of a long gestation period.
Yeah.
Any ladies in the chat have ever given birth? Could you tell me what it was like? And if you could handle it for 18 months instead of the 9? Because we probably have a lot less children on the planet if it took 18 months to produce them.
Jeez, yeah.
What are things I'm happy I don't have to experience for 500, Alex?
Yeah, I'm good.
Our friend Infinite Wonder says, the main sticking point for Paul Bunyan as a kaiju is Paul Bunyan a human or a giant? Is a giant a kaiju? Are we talking myths or giants or D&D giants? He's got the magic abilities of all the kaiju you need already. I wish I would have read this message a minute ago because I wouldn't have said what I said. I'm like, now I want to switch it up. It's like, it's just one of those questions I had never thought before, and I'm only going by... I mean, I haven't read a tall tale in 25 years. That's how old I am at this point. Not really. I was into the tall tales as a kid. I thought they were the coolest shit. When I was in grade school, we actually did a play. I was John Henry. Somebody else was Paul Bunyan. This girl was Babe the Blue Ox. That's pretty funny if you think about it in hindsight. But I like those characters. It's just something from my childhood I haven't thought about in forever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is like one of those dilemmas: is a hot dog a sandwich? Because it's like, it's meat between two pieces of bread. But then everyone's like, no, it's not. Well, is a taco a sandwich? Yeah, it is. Then what? How is that? It's one of those questions where it's like, if you acknowledge one, then where does it stop? And now I'm kind of stuck on the whole, maybe, just maybe, Paul Bunyan is a kaiju. He's the greatest. We should do a series called The Great American Kaiju, or I actually could do this.
I was going to say, it sounds like your next comic book.
I'm just going to write this one down.
Do it, dude. Don't let that slip away. That's gold.
I'm writing it down right now. There you go. For me, I do keep all these ideas. What I do is I write them down and then I take a picture. Like for my comic idea that I'm working on, I had a brainstorming session and I wrote it all down on paper. I'm like, wait, what am I going to do with this piece of paper? And you're just going to take a picture of it on your phone. And that's what I always do. I just like that name. It's mine. I'm going to go by the website right now. Yes, Darian217, it makes sense that I played Paul Bunyan as I'm 6'5", and I was 6'5". I was born at 6'5". My poor mother. Yes, wow. I was born full sized. Oh God, you just fucking. My mom's like 5'5". How does that even happen? That would be terrifying. Again, what are things I don't have to deal with for 500, Alex? Hank V says Paul Bunyan fought Voltron one time, and it was a good once. Andrew, I think we're gonna close up tonight's show. We hit the 2-hour mark, and folks, I gotta just be fully transparent with everybody. I'm a little under the weather. I've been kind of running myself ragged to get shit done, and so I need to get some rest. If I'm not feeling too hot in the morning, GMPC may return on Thursday, because we'll have GMPC on Thursday, the podcast Thursday night, Good Morning Pop Culture Friday, as well as our interview with WDW Pro. So I'm just, gonna be completely honest with people. If I do this too long and I get too sick, then there might be a big gap in the channel, and I don't want that.
Get your rest.
Yeah, exhaustion's a motherfucker. That happened to me one time before, back in 2008. I just kept doing shit, and then one night I was at dinner. I was at an O'Charlie's, and all of a sudden my mom goes, "What's wrong? You don't look good." I was like, "Mom, I can't even finish dinner. I need to go lay in the car right now." And so I got myself into the car. I passed out, and she's like, "Honey, we're home." And I got myself into bed, and that's where I stayed for a couple days. So, folks, I just want to tell everybody, thank you for joining us. Jason Green says, I'd buy a comic where Jeff and the guys were in high school. Well, my dream is to do a WCBS project where we're in college. Like, maybe older guys stuck back in college or something. Not to rip off old school, but to me, high school was fun, but college was the premier social experience. Like, all the shit you've read about or seen in college movies and TV shows, that was me. Like, Animal House, maybe some of the shit was crazier than in reality, but, like, I went to the crazy frat parties. I saw the crazy stuff, the drinking, the girls, the this, the that. That was my college experience. Same with Dion. Dion was right there with me. So we pretty much had that type of life, and that would be very fun to do that kind of story today. But by today's standards, it'd be too offensive, so maybe we'll just have to wait until reality gets better. But we're not done yet, folks. We have a couple more messages from the audience. Thank you guys for all the support you continually give us. TLJ Screwjob says, Jeff, 6'5" Jeff being birthed full size equals Mortal Kombat fatality. Yeah, I would never want to do that. I wouldn't want to kill anybody from just being born. Adam Wofford has some more clarification. He says Godzilla is a kaiju, but doesn't always giants. The word giant means devour. Cannibalism, the Nephilim are the same thing in Japanese mythology. Kaiju covers demons and gods. I did not know that. For as much as I love Japanese culture and the entertainment they produce, I do not know that aspect. I tend to consume older Japanese content, And the more I know, though, it helps with all the projects I want to work on in the future, because here's one piece of advice to anyone out there that wants to be a creator, not a content creator, but somebody that wants to make projects. You know how Rip has the Rippaverse, I have my comics. Look
actual creators.
Yes, actual creators. Look outside of your what interests you and try to consume everything in terms of what's popular. Like, you know, for me, reading manga and watching anime isn't always just a form of entertainment, but it's work to go ahead and basically understand the marketplace you exist in. Because if you're only going to focus on the American audience, that's fine. You can be hugely successful. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to create something that's going to really resonate around the world and stick around in the future, you got to be able to hit all of those boxes. Plus, you want to be multi-generational. And that's something I'm looking at with this next project I'm working on. And that's something I focus on moving forward. To create something for everybody, you eventually might create something that's for no one. But if you understand what it takes to really resonate with people, then you're going to be golden. And that's one of the things I believe everyone should focus on, is how to appeal to that I don't want to say wide variety of people, but that's essentially how I'm going to phrase it, like that. And I think consuming Japanese content is part of that, because it influences everything we do. You know, if you're roughly my age, in your early 30s, you grew up with stuff that was influenced from Japanese culture, and if you didn't even realize it, you probably did if you're my age. But like Power Rangers, a lot of anime debuted in America very early on, before we were even watching this stuff. I know a lot of people say, well, the Dragon Ball Z craze is what really brought anime to America, but this stuff had been around since the 50s or 60s with Astro Boy. But it became a bigger part, and it became a part of everyday life for my generation. And today, kids read that stuff every day. So that's Jeff's little end of show talk about advice, or whatever you want to call it. If you want to be a creator, make sure you consume everything. Life experience gives you the best best experiences to make art, but also being knowledgeable and understanding what works where will definitely help you. So I want to thank everyone that's given me more information on kaijus, because I would love to do a kaiju story. A Lovecraftian kaiju story would be fun for me. Would there be a giant robot? I want there to be, because I love giant robots. If they didn't take forever to draw, I would do that kind of stuff, but I'm just not that kind of artist. I like organic stuff. You can feel it better. Infinite Wonder says, seriously, go watch the VOD it explains everything. I will go check it out. I definitely will check that out. Like I said, I took a screenshot. Just going to check my, let's see, right here. I'll check again, just in the archives of my phone. Yes, from you talk about, yes, from just Brandon. So I got that down in the list. Maybe I'll go watch that tonight as I'm laying in bed. Who knows? But Andrew, is there anything else you'd like to say before we get going?
Other than we are back online on our website, and stocks are moving up. The numbers are going. We managed to jump up past our $900,000 milestone already. So keep that coming, guys. If you have been so graciously and patiently waiting to purchase your pre-order of Isom 2 and all the badass merch that we have, for some of the new characters that we've introduced, including the really, really fine-looking Sydney Bloodruth character, head on over to the website, put in your order. If it's running a little slow, just know that our web devs are still tinkering with things, but the site itself is up and running. Get your order in. Appreciate all of your guys' support, all the love, the enthusiasm. The fans are the driving force behind what we do. You are why we do this, because we are a comic book company of comic book fans for fans, for you first and foremost. So get in there, and I hope you guys have a blast with it.
Yeah, folks, check it out. We're big. We're all independent. We're all independent creators. We're all about supporting each other's work. And I'd like you guys to check out all of the stuff that Andrew's talking about with Isom 2. And you'll get that, and then you can get Wokebusters after that. And I'll be promoting that even bigger the more as more stuff comes into me. So, folks, I'm going to take the morning off to get some rest. I got some stuff to take care of, but there will be a video tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. It covers all of this and a whole lot more in depth, the way you like it, the world-class style. So, folks, until then, we'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
Imagine if you gave a white supremacist 5-MeO DMT and then